Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, and welcome to the Sri Vidya Temple's chanting classes. In today's class, we'll be starting the learning of Pavamana Suktam. So this Suktam is not chanted all the time, but it's very important as a part of a purification process. So in general, it's like a prayer asking for purification, so it can be chanted on its own. Just as part of your own prayer to God for inner purification. But it's also used as a part of a special puja process at the beginning of major events or festivals. So that process is called Punya Havachanam. And it's where you do puja and you chant a number of mantras. And in the process, there's a kalasham with water that is being energized by those mantras and the puja. And then you take that kalasham at the end of this puja process and you sprinkle that water on the whole area where the puja or the homa is going to happen, on the people who are involved in that event, on the items that are going to be offered. And you can also take some of that water and put it into all of the panchapatras that will be used throughout the event or the festival. And so this is something in terms of like preparing the field or preparing the area, the kshetram, where you're going to do this important puja or homa. So it's just part of preparing that, sort of cleaning it on the level of subtle energy and cleaning the auras of the people who are attending and participating. So that's where this Suktam comes in as a very important part of that. Okay, so I'll start with the Ganapati prayer and then we'll get started. Om Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Shashivarnan Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadhanandhyayet Sarva Vikhnopashantaye. Okay, so if you've looked at the documents, you'll notice that the first few lines are a little bit long. And then after that, the lines all get very short. So just keep in mind that the beginning section is going to be a little bit more challenging because the lines are longer. But once you've got that down, the rest of it will definitely be a little bit easier and will flow a little bit more easily. Okay, but the first part will be just a little bit challenging. All right, so would anyone like to start out repeating the lines? Okay, Charuanti, please unmute yourself. Okay. Om Hiranyavarnash. Auntie, you're still muted? Okay, there you go.
Sorry. Om Hiranyavarnash. Om Hiranyavarnash.
Good. Shuchayaf Pavaka.
Suchayaf Pavaka. Suchayaf Pavaka.
Om Hiranyavarnash Shuchayaf Pavaka.
Om Hiranyavarnash Suchaya Pavaka. Om Hiranyavarnash Suchaya Pavaka.
Good. Second time was correct. So notice the holding on Visarga in Varnashuchaya, Varnashuchaya. And also in Shuchayaha, the Visarga, notice it's pronounced as if, and also there's holding. Shuchayaf Pavaka, Shuchayaf Pava. Okay. So let's go on for the rest of the line. Ya Sujatah
Ya Sujatak, Ya Sujatak,
Kashyapo Yasvindraha
Kashyapo Yasvindraha, Kashyapo Yasvindraha,
Ya Sujatah Kashyapo Yasvindraha
Ya Sujatak, Kashyapo Yasvindraha, Ya Sujatak, Kashyapo Yasvindraha.
It's very good. The swaras in Kashyapo just need a little bit more practice. So let's go back to the first half of the line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to chant the first half by myself 4 times so everyone can practice along. Om Hiranyavarna Shuchayah Pavaka Om Hiranyavarna Shuchayah Pavaka Om Hiranyavarna Shuchayah Pavaka Om Hiranyavarna Shuchayah Pavaka. Now I'm going to do the second half of the line by myself 4 times as a practice. Ya Sujatah Kashyapo Yasvindraha Ya Sujatah Kashyapo Yasvindraha Ya Sujatah Kashyapo Yasvindraha Ya Sujatah Kashyapo Yasvindraha. Okay, so Charuanti, you can unmute yourself again. Okay. So now we're going to try the full line and we'll see how that goes. Okay. Om Hiranyavarna Shuchayah Pavakaya Sujatah Kashyapo Yasvindraha
Om Hiranyavarnastu Chayah Pavakaya Sujadah Kashyapo Yasvindraha. Om Hiranyavarnastu Chayah Pavakaya Sujadah Kashyapo Yasvindraha.
Pronunciation and rhythm are very good. Just swaras are going off track. And again, this is very much because it's a much longer line. So these longer lines need a lot more practice, probably than the rest of it. And one thing that's really helpful here is to do the technique where you start from the end of the line and you go backwards, adding more and more in chunks. And the reason for that is that for some reason, when a line is longer, by the time you get to the end, your brain really kind of gives up. So there's only so much you can sort of process and hold in your brain at a time. So when the lines get longer, it gets harder towards the end. So that's why you want to really start at the end, start at the hard part, attack the hard part, and then strengthen that as much as possible by going backwards. So we can just, there's different ways to do this. So Rameshaya will do, one way where it's one syllable by one syllable, which is definitely a very powerful way to, focus on each individual akshara. What I tend to do is I go by word or a chunk of a word. Unless something is like super challenging, and then I'll break it down by syllable. But for most things, I'll go by word. So we can do a little bit of that practice on the first line, just as like a demonstration. Yasvindraha
Yasvindraha Yasvindraha
Kashyapo Yasvindraha
Kashyapo Yasvindraha Kashyapo Yasvindraha.
Very good. Just notice that in Kashyapo, the first and third syllables are the lower swaram, but the middle syllables should be the middle. So they're not all down. It goes down, middle, down. Kashyapo.
Kashyapo Kashyapo
Good. Kashyapo Yasvindraha
Kashyapo Yasvindraha Kashyapo Yasvindraha.
Okay, this one is going down a little bit again, but that's something that you can practice. Okay. Yasujatah Kashyapo Yasvindraha
Yasujadah Kashyapo Yasvindraha Yasujadah Kashyapo Yasvindraha.
Good. Pavakaya Sujatah Kashyapo Yasvindraha
Pavakaya Sujadah Kashyapo Yasvindraha Pavakaya Sujadah Kashyapo Yasvindraha.
Good. Let's just look at Pavaka. Pavaka.
Pavaka. Pavaka.
That's it. Now the whole section. Pavakaya Sujatah Kashyapo Yasvindraha
Pavakaya Sujadah Kashyapo Yasvindraha Pavakaya Sujadah Kashyapo Yasvindraha.
First line, first time sounded good. Second time went a little bit off, but that just takes a little bit of practice. Let's go back a little bit more. Shuchayaf Pavakaya Sujatah Kashyapo Yasvindraha
Suchayah Pavakaya Sujadah Kashyapo Yasvindraha Suchayah Pavakaya Sujadah Kashyapo Yasvindraha.
Okay, as the section gets longer, it gets harder to get the swaras accurately. So you can all see like how much practice needs to go into these initial long lines. So if possible, maybe I can make some recordings of the different sections of the line so that it's a little bit easier to practice these specifically later on. So I'll see if I can do that. So I'm gonna finish up by chanting by myself this whole first line 4 times in a row so that you can all practice. Om Hiranyavarna Shuchayah Pavakaya Sujatah Kashyapo Yasvindraha Om Hiranyavarna Sujayaf Pavakaya Sujatah Kashyapo Yasvindraha Om Hiranyavarna Shuchayaf Pavakaya Sujatah Kashyapo Yasvindraha Om Hiranyavarna Shuchayaf Pavakaya Sujatah Kashyapo Yasvindraha. So one more thing you'll notice with the longer lines is that it's very hard to get through the entire line in one breath. At least for me, it's hard, especially when chanting more slowly. So when you're chanting a line like this, you want to look for certain spots where you can take a breath without breaking up the rhythm of the line. So very commonly, places that are good for that are places where there's holding, because there's a little bit of a beat where you can quickly take a breath and then continue. And if you're chanting, especially in a group, you won't be out of sync with the other chanters, and it'll be like a full sound overall with everybody chanting together and hopefully breathing at different locations. So that's something to sort of think about as you learn it and as you get more experience in actually chanting it. Okay, so for the second line, is there anyone who would like to repeat the lines? Okay, Daniel Aya, please unmute yourself. Okay. Agniya.
Agniya. Agniya.
Garbhan dadhire.
Garbham dadhire. Garbham dadhire.
Very good. I can hear the Mahapranas correctly. It sounded like in the dhi, in dadhire, that you were prolonging that a little bit too much. So just keep in mind that's hrasva vowel, not the dirgha. So I'll do just that word one more time. Dadhire.
Dadhire. Dadhire.
Okay, good. Agniya garbhan dadhire.
Agniya garbham dadhire. Agniya garbham dadhire.
Good. So the anuswara in front of ya, notice how that will be pronounced in the unusual way of like a e sound, agniya, okay? And also garbham followed by dadhire. As you practice, you can pronounce that as garbhandadhi, because it's followed by the di or da. It becomes pronounced as a na sound. Okay, so that's like a thing that you can focus on as you're polishing towards the end. All right, so going on. Virupastana.
Virupasta. Virupastana.
Good.
Virupasta.
Good. Second time was
Virupastana.
swaras were correct on the second time. Okay. Virupastana.
Virupastana. Virupastana.
Good. Let's try from the beginning. Agniya garbhan dadhire virupastana.
Agniya garbham dadhire virupastana. Agniya garbham dadhire virupastana.
Good. Apashak
apashagah, apashagas,
Good. Syona bhavantu.
Shona bhavantu, Shona bhavantu.
Good. So in the word Siona, it sounded a little bit like you were pronouncing as a sh sound. It may just be because of the zoom, but that's a regular S. So it's like a regular Siona, Siona. Okay. Well, let's try that phrase from Apasham all together. Apashakasyona bhavantu.
Apashakasyo, apashakasyona bhavantu, apashakasyona bhavantu.
Good. So this one is tricky because that double G that you see there, that's actually a form of anuswara. So there used to be an anuswara there. So that would have been apasham, apahasham, apasham. But because of the sound combination that follows that anuswara, and because this is Yajurveda style of chanting, that anuswara turns into a double g sound, and the sound gets dropped away. It's just one of the unusual rules of Yajurveda chanting. And it's a little bit tricky because we're not used to it normally, but that's how you would pronounce it. Apashagasyona, apashagasyona. So that's going to take a little bit more of practice to get it and to get the rhythm of it and so on. But luckily this phrase repeats 2 more times. So you'll get lots of practice. All right, let's try from Virupasthana. Virupasthana apashakasyona bhavantu.
Virupasthana apashagasyona bhavantu. Virupasthana apashagasyona bhavantu.
Very good. Swetas are very good. Some of the rhythm is a little bit like either elongated or a little bit too short in some places. So with time, that should even out. Okay. Let's just try from the beginning of the line and just take it slowly as you chant. Agniya garbhanda dhire virupasthana apashakas syona bhavantu.
Agniya karpam tadhire virupasthana apashagasyona bhavantu. Agniya karpam tadhire virupasthana apashagasyona bhavantu.
Very good. Still, there will be a little bit more work in the apasham section. And one thing it sounds like in virupasta, it sounds like the ru is coming out more like a hrasva than a dirgha. So let's just look at that. So the vi is hrasva, ru is dirgha, pa is also dirgha, and ta is dirgha. Okay, so I'll chant it once and you repeat 2 times. Virupasta.
Virupasta, Virupasta.
That's it. Virupasthana apashakasyona bhavantu.
Virupasta na apashakasyona bhavantu. Virupasta na apashakasyona bhavantu.
Everything is very good. The only thing missing now is the holding on apashagus. So you see the two S's with a slash mark. So that means there's holding in that place. So instead of apashag, it's apashagus.
Apashagus.
Okay. So thank you very much. I'm going to chant the first half of the line as practice by myself. And then I'll do the second half as practice. And then I'll do the whole line 4 times through. Okay. Agneya garbhanda dhire virupasta. Agneya garbhanda dhire virupasta. Agneya garbhanda dhire virupasta. Agneya garbhanda dhire virupasta. Now the second half. Na apashakasyo na bhavanto. Na apashakasyo na bhavanto. Na apashakasyo na bhavanto. Na apashakasyo na bhavanto. Now the full line. Agneya garbhanda dhire virupasta. Na apashakasyo na bhavanto. 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 Okay. So would anyone like to repeat the lines for the third line? Any volunteers?
Shall I try?
Sure. Who was that?
Nitya.
Nitya Amal. Sure. Most welcome. I couldn't see you in the screen. Okay, there you are.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, actually, I'm using the phone to chant, so this goes in the background.
Oh, okay. No problem. No problem. All right. So we'll start from the third line. Yasagum.
Yasagum.
Just do it a second time, please.
Oh, sorry. Yasagum.
Very good. So here, notice that sometimes when there are 2 lower swaras or anudatta next to each other, the first one will go down even further. And I don't fully understand the rules for when that happens and when it doesn't. So that's just something where you listen to the teacher, whoever you've learned it from, or your good recording on YouTube, and you follow their example. Yasagum.
Yasagum. Yasagum.
Good. Raja Varuno.
Raja Varuno. Raja Varuno.
Swaras are very good. Just watch out in Varuno, Ru is Hrasva. And because this is not Rig Veda, this is Yajurveda, we don't elongate that Ru or emphasize it. If this were Rig Veda, then that would be more the way you chant it. But because this is Yajurveda style, make sure it's more like Varuno, Varuno.
Varuno, Varuno.
That's it. Okay, from the beginning. Yasagum Raja Varuno.
Yasagum Raja Varuno. Yasagum Raja Varuno.
Very good. Just the Yasagum, the swaras drifted slightly. So remember it's Yasagum.
Yasagum. Yasagum.
That's it. Yasagum Raja Varuno.
Yasagum Raja Varuno. Yasagum Raja Varuno.
Very good. Yati Madhye.
Yati Madhye. Yati Madhye.
Good. Yasagum Raja Varuno Yati Madhye.
Yasagum Raja Varuno Yati Madhye. Yasagum Raja Varuno Yati Madhye.
Good. Let's try the second half of the line. Satyanrute.
Satyanrute. Satyanrute.
Good. And if you happen to be looking at a Tamil script, just keep in mind that this ru is a vowel, not the RU combination. So there's no holding on the in because it's just the one sound plus a vowel. There's no holding. Satyanrute. Nrute.
Okay.
Satyanrute. I'm not correcting you. You pronounced it correctly. But just for anyone else who might be looking at a Tamil script, just to point that out for them. Okay. Satyanrute avapashyan.
Satyanrute apavashyan. Sorry. Satyanrute avapashyan. Satyanrute apavapashyan. Sorry. Satyanrute avapashyan.
Very close.
Satyanrute avapashyan.
Okay, very close. So you got the gap correct. So notice we have one word that's ending in an A sound, the dirgha vowel sound, and the next word begins with another vowel. So that's why there's a small gap in that place. But let's just look a little bit at the swaras of avapashyam. Avapashyam.
Avapashyam. Avapashyam.
Good. Avapashyam.
Avapashyam. Avapashyam.
Okay. Satyanrute avapashyam.
Satyanrute avapashyan. Satyanrute avapashyam.
Very good. Now let's try adding one more word. Satyanrute avapashyan jananam.
Satyanrute avapashyan jananam. Satyanrute avapashyantananam.
Very good. Now let's go back to the beginning. Yasagum Raja Varuno Yati Madhye.
Yasagum raja varuno yati madhye. Yasagum raja varuno yati madhye.
Very good. Satyanrute avapashyanjananam.
Satyanrute avapashyanjananam. Satyanrute avapashyanjananam.
Photos were very good. Just keep a slightly more of a gap after the nrute. Okay, just slightly more of a pause there. Okay.
Okay.
Let's just try doing the full line all together. Okay, and you can go as slowly as you like. So first I'll chant it, then you can do it 2 times. Yasagum Raja Varuno Yati Madhye Satyanrute Avapashyanjananam.
Yasagum raja varuno yati madhye satyanrute avapashyanjananam. Yasagum raja varuno yati madhye satyanrute avapashyanjananam.
Very good. So only a couple of places where swaras went off. So madhye, the dhye is the upper swara, not lower swara. So just watch out for that. And then also in satyanrute, just take a look at those swaras a little bit more. But otherwise, very, very good. So now what I'll do is I'll chant by myself, each half of the line 4 times and then the full line 4 times. Yasagum Raja Varuno Yati Madhye. 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 Now the second half. Satyanrute avapashyanjananam. Satyanrute avapashyanjananam. Satyanrute avapashyanjananam. Satyanrute avapashyanjananam. Now the full line. Yasagum Raja Varuno Yati Madhye Satyanrute avapashyanjananam. 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 Okay. So now would anyone like to do the repeating for the next line? Okay, Rupa, Amma, that's you? Okay. Hi, Amma, please unmute yourself. Okay. So starting from Madhush Chutash. Madhushchutash.
Madhushudash, Madhushudat, Madhush, Sudash,
Good. Shuchayo.
Suchayo, Suchayo,
Sorry. Madhushchutash shuchayo.
Madhusudas, Suchayo, Madhusudas, Suchayo.
Good. So notice in the first 4 syllables, the swaras go down, down, middle, down. So the first 2 are both down. Madhushchutash.
Madhus, Judas, Madhus, Judas.
First time was correct. Then second time drifted a little bit. So just watch out for that. And so this is a challenging combination because the sh sound comes with the ch sound, kind of alternating quite a bit. So this is a bit of a tongue twister. So that's a good one to practice repeatedly, because one of the things in chanting is that one aspect is the mental or the intellectual aspect, where you need to look at the line and know which are the sounds to be chanted. That's the first step. Then the next part is getting your mouth to actually produce that sound and to produce the combination of sounds correctly. So it's like there's a link between the brain and the whole mouth structure that has to be there. And sometimes for some of the sound combinations, we actually have to strengthen the muscles of the mouth area a little bit to get it to come out at the right kind of fluidity, at the right speed that we're actually going to be chanting. So that's why these kind of tongue twister areas, it's very good to focus on those, practice them more, and practice them with full intention. Like not like mindlessly repeating them, but repeating them slowly and carefully with full enunciation. And slowing it down is very helpful. And also sort of emphasizing, like overemphasizing the sounds, almost like you're like a news telecaster, really pronouncing your words very clearly. And then that will help to sort of get it into your brain and also exercise the muscles that are involved in producing those unique combinations. So this is not like advice for you specifically, but just for everyone in general. That's the recommendation. Because for this one, it's like madhushchutashuchayo. So that sh and cha is coming back and forth in some slightly challenging ways. Okay, so let's go on. Yafpavakas.
Yafpavakas, Yafpavakas.
Good. So again, notice the yaha, with the visarga being pronounced as a if sound because pa is coming after. Yafpava. Okay. So let's go back to the beginning and try the full section. Madhushchutashuchayo yafpavakas.
Madhush Chutas, Madhush Chutas, Suchayo, Suchayo Yafavakas, Madhush, Madhush, Madhush Chutas, Suchayo Yafavakas.
Very good. That madhu, first madhu, just keep in mind it's the lower swaras. It's going to take a little bit more practice on that section. Otherwise, it's
Can I repeat it one more time, Amma? Can I repeat it one more time, Amma?
Sure,
Please?
sure.
Madhush, Madhush, Chutas, suchayo yav pavakas madush jutash suchayo yav pavakas.
Getting closer, definitely getting closer. Do you chant with a like a Shruti or a Tanpura app or anything like that when you're practicing?
No, ma.
Not normally?
No.
Okay. That can be helpful because sometimes when the first word or the first syllable of a line is either the lower or the upper, I find it more challenging to get that out correctly in the beginning. So
Okay.
sometimes if you're hearing the Shruti sound, if you're able to learn how to chant with that, that can help to give you a kind of anchor of where your middle is supposed to be. And then it's easier to come in either above that or below that because you have that kind of an anchor that you're already hearing in the background. So you might want to just try experimenting or try playing with a Shruti app. And you can see if maybe that helps.
Sure.
So let's try the second half of the line. Okay. Tana apash.
Tana abhash. Tana abhash.
Shakasyona.
Shakasyona. Sakasyona.
Tana apashakasyona.
Tana abhashakasyona. Tana abhashakasyona.
Good, getting closer. So notice the tricky parts in apashakasyona in the swaras. Apashak.
Abhashak. Abhashak.
Good. Apashakasyona.
Abhashakasyona. Abhashakasyona.
Second time was correct. So the g is still on middle. Okay, so let's try the whole part from ta. Tana apashakasyona bhavantu.
Tana abhashakasyona bhavantu. Tana abhashakasyona bhavantu.
Good. Okay, so let's just try doing the full line. Feel free to go as slowly as you need to. We're just gonna give it a try. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Madhushchutashuchayo yaf pavakas tana apashakasyona bhavantu.
Madhush Juthas Suchayo Yaf Pavakastana Abhashakasyona Bhavantu. Madhus Juthas Suchayo Yav Pavakastana Abhashakasyona Bhavantu.
Very good. Very good. Most of the swaras were very accurate. But the madhus, still the ma is starting out on middle, but it should come in on the lower. Okay, so you can practice that. And also the apashagus is not fully consistent yet. Okay, but very, very close, very good. So now just to finish up, since we're already at 11, just for the final thing, I will chant by myself the halves of the lines 4 times and then the full line 4 times. Okay. Madhushchutashuchayo yav pavaka. Madhushchutashuchayo yav pavakas. Madhushchutashuchayo yav pavakas. Madhushchutashuchayo yav pavakas. Now the second half. Tana apashakasyona bhavantu. Tana apashakasyona bhavantu. Tana apashakasyona bhavantu. Tana apashakasyona bhavantu. Now the full line. Madhushchutashuchayo yav pavakastana apashakasyona bhavantu. Madhushchutashuchayo yav pavakas tana apashakasyona bhavantu. Madhushchutashuchayo yav pavakas tana apashakasyona bhavantu. Madhushchutashuchayo yav pavakas tana apashakasyona bhavantu. Okay, so we've done the first 4 lines, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it actually is because these lines are challenging and they're longer ones. So that's good. Are there any questions on what we've covered today? Or any clarifications? For anyone?
The last part is repeating in the lines.
Yeah, yep. So you can see apashakasyona bhavantu, that's in the second line, and then the 4th line, and then the 6th line as well. So that's like a little cheat sheet. So that makes that a little bit easier. So that will repeat. So you'll get lots more practice with that one.
Yeah.
So at least there's that. Okay. Any other questions, or are we all set? Okay, I think we're all good. So Sri Guru Namaha, thank you very much for joining, and we'll continue with Pavamana Suktam next time.